Hey, John here. Well, it's time for the August 2021 income report, and by the time I get to these reports, it's usually a blur. I can barely remember what happened. So I had to refer to my changelog. I recommend everyone keep a changelog. Basically what I do is I note down any significant changes I made or experiments or anything like that that I do with any of my sites. I actually track it by site. It's not complicated. It's basically a text document. And it actually really helps me notice, if there's any big changes in search traffic particularly, I can go back and see if I did anything that might have impacted that. So I recommend it. Helps me with these reports because usually 2 weeks after the end of the month, I have no clue what happened. It's a blur. So I looked at it, and really the only big difference I did in August was I started a big content updating initiative, basically going through a lot of the old content I have on some of my larger sites and having writers spend quite a bit of time. It's quite a tedious, labor-intensive process to update older content, but that's what they're doing. And with the help of Market Muse, which is really helpful with this, any content optimizer will do the job though, so don't think you need to get that one. And so that's it. Other than that, it was basically publish as usual. With this income report, you'll see I am trying to up my game. I get a lot of questions asking all kinds of details about content and traffic, etc., every month. And typically I've tried to crank these things out as fast as possible just because I don't have a whole lot of time, but I took a couple extra hours, put together some tables and charts so you can check those out. You can see some trend patterns over the last year. I think that's most helpful. Actually, I found it pretty helpful for my own business. So that's what's coming up. Let's dive in. Before I dive into the numbers, and there are lots and lots and lots of numbers this month, just a quick reminder that these income reports do not include revenue or expenses for fatstacksblog.com or any of the courses or anything else, the affiliate stuff. It's irrelevant to a portfolio income report. Really, the whole point of the income report is to show that building niche sites, investing in content, and so forth can be a good business. FatStacks is completely different type of business model, so not included. Also, I haven't included all the sites in my portfolio. I've launched a bunch of sites in the last few months. Yeah, that's actually reflected in the content investment. I'm really investing for future growth and more into content with more domains, etc., etc. So let's dive in. First off, quick snapshot of the revenue. Most of my revenue is from AdThrive display ads across my sites. You can see this income report profiles 7 niche sites in my portfolio. You can see all different sizes, big, medium to small, and then small. Now, hopefully, one day, all of these are big. All right, overview. So quickly, this is gross revenue, the number of articles published on the site, page views per article per month. That's on average. Revenue per article per month, and AdThrive revenue per 1,000 visitors. Right. So quickly, a few things to note. Site 9 doing really, really well. Added almost $1,000 to its monthly revenue. Very happy. I think I'm going to break 5,000 for September. So this is excellent. This site's doing really well. But I'm also putting a lot into it. So hopefully it actually continues to do well. One disappointing number is this revenue per 1,000 visitors. I really would have thought that this niche is quite commercial. I thought this would be higher than 20, but anyways, that's where it's at. I'm just going to have to focus growing the traffic. So a few things to note why these numbers are important. You can see here the older and the better a site performs, not really older, but the better a site performs, this number is really important. You can see 517 visitors page views per article per month on average is really good. And even more important is this number because this gives you an idea of what your return on investment is on an article level basis. Okay, you could break this down to per million words, per 1,000 words, however you want. Okay, I just do this for simplicity. So basically I'm breaking even on content for every article at about the 6 to 8 month mark. That's really good. And hopefully this will even continue to improve. I'm not sure. This is excellent. This is breaking even around the 12-month mark. That's actually still not bad. It's definitely economically viable. This site, if this never improves, this site is horrible. 76 cents per article per month. You never make your money back, ever. So I would have to shut it down. But this site's only 5 months old right now. So it's going to take a couple years to grow to, close to this number. Hopefully it gets there. Okay, has a pretty decent RPS. It's still fairly low. It's climbing again this month, but this is in a niche where I didn't expect a good RPS, so I'm pretty happy about that number. And then there's this site, which I'm not really going to invest a whole lot. It's got a fairly low RPS. I don't have a whole lot of content on it. And, it's got a low revenue per article per month as well. It's just I'm not really sure. I think this niche is fairly competitive. I'm just not sure it's going to give me the best bang for my buck. So for now, it sits on the sidelines. And that's why you want to crunch these numbers, right? You want to, especially if you have a few sites, eventually you're going to have to pick and choose where you're going to deploy your resources and where you're going to spend your time and money on a site. You can pick and choose. And so you want, it's always a balancing act between an RPS number and the potential traffic number. If you get a low RPS, that's not the end of the story. I'm actually investing into this site quite a bit. And while it has the lowest RPS of all my sites, it has huge traffic potential. It's in a niche where the traffic potential is massive. So I'm just going to have to offset this with a lot of traffic, and I hope I can do it. And traffic is growing nicely for that site. So total revenue for the month was $86,983 for the entire portfolio, the 7 sites in this portfolio. All right, time to glaze over here. Okay, I am not going to cover every number here. I'm just going to explain the columns, and then from there, if you really want to look into it carefully, you can just pause the video and check it out. So quickly, month. This is a snapshot of numbers for the portfolio, not including fat stacks, since January 2020. We got gross revenue. We got content, how much I spend on content every month. Expenses would be pretty much anything like hosting, VAs, software. Net income is after both content and expenses are taken off revenue. And we got profit excluding content. So this is gross revenue just minus expenses. And expenses, as you'll notice in a following chart, is very almost like really stable, really fixed. Net profit margin then would be after both content and expenses. You can see this varies quite a bit depending on how much is spent on content. If we do profit margin not including the content investment, it's very consistent and it's very high. And in fact, it gets higher and higher and higher, which is really cool because my fixed expenses, if you will, like hosting and software I need to run my business, stays pretty low while revenue goes up. So this is an amazing part of this business in that my absolute bare minimum expenses required to run my sites is incredibly low. 90% profit margin is nuts. That's really high. Any business would be very happy with that. Now, of course, there is the content investment, but when we're talking about content investment, it's really an investment into the future. If I absolutely had to, I could simply just start, be a one person show here and run this thing myself. And I'd pare it down, obviously, and focus on 1 or 2 sites and just write all day and add an article or 2 across the 2 sites. And it would continue to grow, at least those 2 sites would. And, I'd pocket a lot of money. But really, I'm still in a scaling phase. I really want to invest for the future. I highly encourage you to go check out yeys.com, yeys.com. It's run by Anne, who has a spectacular portfolio of niche sites, and she does a really nice job of highlighting that. And what you'll really see if you look over the last few months, you'll be able to see what kind of return on investment she and her husband are getting by really plowing into building up a lot of websites. It's a very impressive portfolio. I recommend checking it out. Lastly, here I've just got a column here of the portfolio valuation. For the most part, the trajectory is up. Obviously, it's going to go up and down. So next up, I am going to jump through a bunch of charts. The valuation is assuming a 42x monthly net income. Okay, this could vary. This could be 35. You could get 50. So this I'm making this big assumption. And also, I value sites without excluding content investment and as an expense. We can debate that all day. That's my position. Now, if I were in a desperation situation and had to sell, I'd probably have to compromise here. If I'm not desperate to sell a site, I could just price it at whatever I wanted. And if nobody wanted to buy it, or if somebody really wanted to buy it and willing to pay, then there you go. All right, first chart, pretty simple. It just basically shows the trajectory of revenue, content, expenses, net income. You could see the expenses, the fixed expenses are very, very stable. Content kind of goes up and down. Obviously, net income and revenue basically mimic each other. Note in right around here, end of 2020 and early 2021, I sold a handful of sites. I think altogether, all 7 sites, proceeds were $201,000 US. So that was good, and that was exciting for me. It was the first time I ever sold any sites, and it really showed me the importance of also paying attention to the value of a site when you're making business decisions and what to invest in it, because the potential exit can be very, very lucrative. Even for a site, think about a site earning $1,000 a month. Let's say you get a 45 times net monthly income, it's $45,000. That's a lot of money. And you can see here with a bump in my content expense, that's for building up some new site inventory in my portfolio that I will hold on to for a rainy day. So we got profit margins here, and I've kind of beat this whole aspect of the portfolio to death. But you can see here when we exclude the content costs, the portfolio the profit margins are very, very high, and they get a little bit better and better because my fixed expenses really don't go up, even though my overall traffic has gone up in the last year. Those expenses are very, very stable. So this is great. This can keep going higher, and you can see my net profit margin when we take off content expense, that fluctuates a lot because what I spend on content fluctuates a lot every month. So content as an investment, as a percentage of revenue, definitely fluctuates. Here it was almost 50%, and you can see here I'm almost getting back up to a 40% here. But for the most part, it's in between the 25 and 30% of total revenue I'm reinvesting into content. Portfolio valuation, you can see the trajectory is upward. That was obviously a good month there, and I it's kind of weird that it would fluctuate so much, but it's hard to do one of these charts because here that was based on 1 month income, right? And often buyers are going to sort of look at the trailing 12 months or trailing 6 months of the overall numbers. So this is a bit skewed, and just sort of give you a bird's eye view that you're continuing to invest in content and working in this business, that your overall valuation for an exit can continue to grow in a fairly nice upward trajectory. And I hope, and I'm optimistic, it'll continue like this well in the next few years. So I'm going to wrap this up quickly with just some quick traffic screenshots and DRs of the sites. This is traffic for August 2021, the biggest site in my portfolio. You can see it did about 2.5 million sessions. So that site's still performing very, very well. Site 3 is that site I purchased, and I said I was investing into content, and you can see that the traffic's growing up quite nicely, and it continued like that in September. So the content strategy I have for the site's working out really, really well. The big question is am I going to be able to push this site into the $5,000-$10,000 a month in a year or two? I don't know. It's a bit of a risk for this site. And this site's sitting on the sidelines. You can see a few hundred visitors per day. Cycle Baron also sitting on the sidelines, not, pretty consistent traffic there. But these sites, even though I'm not putting a lot into them now, they're valuable, and they're good to have a portfolio, because maybe down the road I'll come up with an idea for this particular site and be like, oh, okay, that's going to work. That's a great angle. And I'm sitting there, I've got a DR19, and I'm in a good position to rapidly grow it. The site 9 is my second favorite site, and I think has the most potential other than site 1, so I'm putting a lot into this, and the traffic continues to grow for that one. And site 10 is a effort with a friend, and we're just slowly growing this, a few 5-7 articles per month, and we'll keep it at that pace for now. And lastly, this is the Age domain site I purchased from Otis.global. I acquired a domain from them. I launched the site in April 2021. I'm very happy. The traffic continues to grow in September, so it was a good, I think, strategy to start with an Age domain. Would I do it for every site I start? I'm not sure. No, obviously I'm not, because I've registered some new domains recently and just started from scratch, because I'm just letting those sites sit. But if you have something where you really want to hit the ground running, this has worked for me quite nicely, and I'm optimistic about the site. Now, I got to say, I've also invested into a lot of content. It's not like I just bought this site and let it sit and did nothing, and I'm getting really fast traffic growth. That wouldn't have happened. I am putting a ton into content. I have a really good content strategy and approach with this site. So it's sort of the stars have aligned for this site, and I'm optimistic with how fast that this can grow. Lastly, expenses for the month came in, as you can see, like under 10,000 at this point. It's fixed. Even since 18 months ago, I think it was around $7,500 a month. So it hasn't changed a whole lot. Hosting 1,400 VAs, just coming up to 6,000 Shutterstock, and then various software to run the business, and net income after that 77,000. Then the content investment, I did a huge investment with Passion Posts, over 18,000 in August. Really, if you're going to use Passion Posts, the content is amazing. I'm very happy with the content, but please be patient. We're talking like 6-week turnaround right now. The owner tells me he's hiring really as fast as he can. But that's a process to hire writers. I don't envy him having to do that. So just please be patient. Don't expect content back in a week. Writer Access, I had some money in the account still, so I didn't actually have to refund it. And in-house writers, they're mostly working on updating content rather than writing new content. Fiverr is for custom illustrations. I'm really going big on that. That's what the Age Domain site, so that's part of that. And Portfolio Manager, who really helps run the whole day-to-day of everything. So total content's pretty hefty at $30,000 per month. So my net income would be $46,000. That's a wrap. If you want to learn more, you can check out my free course at fatsexblog.com. Call it 6-Figure Baseline Blogger. If you really want to get all the details and get my paid course, you can do that. There's a link there at the blog as well to get the paid course, and it just covers everything, including keyword research, monetization with ads, even some affiliate monetization, which I do, etc., etc., etc. You can check that out. Thanks very much for watching.